What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about 4 different Grayscale trusts today. We're going to talk about GXLM and ZCSH at the request of Cal, and then we'll talk about LTCN and BCHG at the request of nobody. I don't know. We'll say it's at the request of Honey Hassan. You were the one that requested it last time. If anybody has requested it, I didn't get any names, so my bad for not giving you a shout-out. But here we are. You didn't come for the shout-outs, damn it. You came for me to tell you it's going to the moon, right? So that's that. Take care. Bye-bye. No, we're going to do some homework here. So buckle up, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's get into it. So 47.50 right now on the weekly. GXLM, yes, down about 6%. Let's pull up the underlying asset too. We're going to do all-time high predictions for every single one of these. You bet we are, right? XLM, beautiful, pulling back to the 618, down about 13%. So GXLM holding up pretty well. Makes sense that it would, right? It's got some catching up to do. You're about to rip, bro. You really are, right? Like this seems like it would call for a correction, especially when you're looking at this move, you're looking at this move. It would seem like it, right? But dude, I'm telling you, this thing's about to fly. You're about to fly to new all-time highs, GXLM. You're about to. From a high to a low perspective, my expectation would be that by the end of January, you're at $47 now. By the end of January, you could be as high as $211. You really could be. I think you have a lot out of all the Grayscale trusts we're going to talk about tonight. You've got a lot of catching up to do, and I'm not saying that it has to happen. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it did, or higher, or higher. But certainly new all-time highs by the end of January. Now, as far as by the end of the cycle goes, I'm not as confident on that, right? If we look at XLM. By the end of the cycle, my expectation would be that XLM could be as high as, it was like $22, right? At least $8.46, if not $22. That's kind of my guess, right? Somewhere in that range. It's a big range. I know that doesn't help too much, but let's just see. Minimum growth here would be about an 11x. No, I'm sorry. Minimum growth for stellar lumens would be about a 22x to potentially a 60x almost, right? So if that's stellar lumens, 22x to a 60x, the same thing here, 22x would basically be right there, okay? To a 60x, it's like 58 point something. It was like that, right? Something around there. It was a little bit higher. 60x, okay? That's just if for every 1% XLM moved up, GXLM tracked it, okay? But likely GXLM will move up more than XLM does. Also likely GXLM will top off before XLM does, right? That's probably what's going to happen. So if these are percentages based on XLM's all-time high kind of potential, maybe it would be appropriate to actually take different targets, right? Maybe instead of it being at $22, because if that's the high end of the cycle, maybe we could take a lower price, which would still be at about a 22x. Maybe you're here. Maybe you're at 846 by the time GXLM tops off. XLM is still going to grow all the way up to $20, $22, $17, whatever, right? But GXLM tops off here at 846, $10, where XLM is. Okay, if that's true, then XLM still does a 22x by the time GXLM tops off. If GXLM were to do a 22x from here, that puts us at this white line, right? I would assume, just already basically looking at this for what it is, and as crazy as it sounds, guys, I would assume GXLM has a solid chance of seeing prices above $1,000 by the end of the cycle, right? Well above it. I think that's what we've just done here, in case it seems like a headache, and it kind of was for me. I've got my thoughts all scattered out, but I hope it was easy enough for you to track. All I'm trying to say is, at a minimum, I think it's a very feasible assumption that GXLM will be worth more than $1,000 by the end of the cycle. Absolutely, from its current price, yes. Now that's just tracking. Let's assume it doubles, right? Let's assume that it doubles. Instead of a 21x, 22x, we see like a 40-something x, right? Like a 45x. Let's do that. Then that would mean GXLM sees 2,000 at a minimum. And I personally don't think that right there, that assumption, I don't think that that's out of this world. I don't know what word I'm trying to use here. I don't think that's out of pocket. I don't think that's too much to ask. I know it sounds crazy. I know it really does. But when we're talking about overall growth, these trusts tend to outperform their underlying assets, right? Their premiums grow. And this thing has a lot of catching up to do. I'm just saying the minimum, the base case for GXLM would be $1,000. But realistically, I could see this thing going probably around 2K, genuinely probably around 2K. I wonder, and if not there, even higher, man. There are targets all the way up at $4,000, and you could hit that. But right there, you're 200 with the 2886. Maybe you stop just below 2K. Maybe you go all the way up to 4K, man. It's really hard. Like you've got some serious potential in this thing, but it does depend. It really does depend on what the Grayscale kind of management does. Will they offer private placement sales, right? They've offered private placement sales for this throughout this whole time, and it's probably held the price back. It hasn't been good. If they offered private placement sales and we were up here, that would hurt it too. Because XLM is going to move up, but if it moves up, GXLM will move up at a faster rate. The premium will grow, which means that it would hurt the price more if private placements came out because they're able to buy at a higher discount, if that makes sense. But I hope that gives you an insight as to what I'm expecting of GXLM overall. I mean everything I'm saying, right? They're not just moon boy targets, right? There's a reason why it took me a while to even get to talking about $4,000 or more. Those are more moon boy targets, but even then, they're still like this thing could genuinely 80x or 100x from here. It's very possible, especially with the potential that XLM presents, right? But it all depends. It really does depend on how Grayscale manages the trust as well. But I would assume even if they do offer private placement sales, you're still going to probably at least be at $1,000. That's just if you track XLM. Let alone, I think 2,000's in the bag, genuinely. 4,000 on the fibs, if you're hitting 2,000, it would make all the sense in the world to go to 4,000. So maybe I'll just call that. It's a crazy call. I don't even know if I believe in it myself, but some of these crazy calls, man, that I don't believe in, that happen, right, inevitably. And I say I don't believe in it, but it just sounds crazy to me at the time. I make them regardless of my feelings. I make them because of what I see in the charts, right? If I start diluting my predictions with my feelings, you guys, I'm gonna underplay or overplay everything, right? This to me seems like an overplay, but realistically, out of everything that I've said, it's the only target that makes sense. It wouldn't make sense to top off here based off the fibs, and I'm a fib guy, I am. So 4,000 would make the most sense. But here's a little thing that I'll say to kind of veto that. I am a fib guy, but I have actually said that with these private placement sales, I don't know if these trusts perform as well as we expect, and I don't know if the fibs, the projections out, will help us. They might and likely will actually top off in their own kind of random areas that aren't significant to the fibs. So I mean everything that I've said, but maybe that 4,000, even though it would make the most sense to go there as the fib, maybe there is an argument to be made to stop somewhere in the black zone of nothingness, right? Anyways, GXLM. I hope you got your heart out. You get your heart on that one there, Cal, or anyone else who likes GXLM. Zcash, ZCSH here, Zec. And then I know I can hear you asking, when is it going to find the high? When is that going to happen, right? I don't know, man. When is so much harder than where. When, though, if I had to guess when GXLM tops off, second half of 2025 is my guess. The earliest would probably be like June or July, but more likely I think August, September, October, somewhere in those 3 months. That's what I think. Because last time we saw the Grayscale Trust top off like 5 months before, and it depends. It really does depend. Like private placement sales, it depends. I mean, if they open up if Grayscale opens up a private placement round, let's see, what would that be? That'd be in April. If they open up a private placement round in April of 2025 for any and all of these Grayscale trusts, 6 months later would be October. I expect Bitcoin to top off in October. Altcoins probably run for another month after that. And I have been saying that I think these Grayscale trusts will top off. They will. You know what? If I'm just talking, let's bring up the big face. I think that the Grayscale trust will top off this time instead of 5 months away from their respective assets all-time highs. I think they'll top off a month or less. They're going to top off a lot closer is my assumption. And if you see a private placement round come out in April. We don't like private placements, but hey, that might be an indication, right? Because these Grayscale people know what's up. They analyze the markets too, and they have their own predictions going on, right? Their own metrics and guesses as to when they should start phasing things out. If they set up a private placement round for April, they know that when October comes around, that's going to be like end of cycle stuff. And anybody investing in those private placements would probably know as well. So you might see some real big money come in. If that, I'm not saying that they're going to do private placements, but April would be a good month to do it, because if they did do it in April of 2025, that would really piece together this idea that the trusts top off in October. 6 months later, when the trusts unlock, 6 months later, when we're probably a month or two away from altcoins topping off themselves, which fits in this little range that we're trying to suit up for, the Grayscale trust topping off before the altcoin, the underlying asset does. I don't know how much sense that makes. I hope it makes a little bit of sense, or you got something from that, but I feel like I'm rambling, so we're going to continue. $53.50 is where you're at for Zcash. ZCSH is at $6.17 with a hell of a drop, bro. Wow. 14%, 15% down right now, but you were a lot lower, weren't you? How low was that? What did you see? Dude, this thing dropped 36%. That's wild. And let me guess, you gave it all back today, didn't you? Yes, you did. Beautiful. That's not a lot of volume, but that's okay. You didn't really move down with a lot of volume, so you don't need to move up with a lot of volume. You'll probably want to see more volume come in once you're like above this level here, right? But until then, it doesn't really need to come in, and especially once you get above that high, you're going to need to see that thing building some volume, hopefully. But I think it will. You had volume dying off as your price died off. That doesn't normally add up. So of course you're going to eat it right back up. Bouncing on the 123 moving average, nice, an area that you found resistance on before. You found support on it before, resistance on before on the daily. Yeah, so somewhat of respect. I think you're respecting it now. And I bet you move up from here, man. I really do. Yeah, that's a nice low on your RSI too, bouncing right off the 40. Beautiful. Such a dominant trend in your RSI too. That's a very bullish posturing you have here. Higher lows, higher highs. It looks like you're at the base of this channel up, and you're ready for that next phase up, which tells me, I mean, based off of this here, looking where you're at, you haven't even really phased. It's this move. You're starting this high to low. Let's do this high to low too and see if we get anything that lines up. High to low here. Look at that, you guys. This is no joke, right? This 786, we've been pointing it out. It's been happening a lot this cycle. And it happens, but it's been happening a lot this cycle. This 786, man, you tear right up here. You bypass the golden ratio, right? This was your first, from the low, this is your first time interacting with this white line. You interacted with it back here, but that was before the low. So since the low of this range, you tore right through your golden ratio, went to your 786 and had just like a massive drop. It happens all the time. This 786 rejection is no joke, man. You rarely find support at the 618 and continue. That's a bullish signal. But most of the time, you actually go to your 0.5 or your 382 or even your 236. Like you get some very harsh rejections off of this 786. Just something there for any aspiring technical analysts who use the fibs like I do. High to low there. High to low here. ZCSH, I think you're at 617 now. I think by the end of January you could be anywhere from like $14 to $17. Maybe at the highest 2185, but I don't know if you get there. That's definitely a nice target though. You're 1618 here. I mean, look at that line, man. 1618 with the 2886. 2886 seems to be a money line for a lot of things lately, especially with these smaller fib extensions. 2185 right there, 2165, whatever, 2174. Previous areas of resistance. Current golden extension of the overall range, current 2886 extension of the minor range of this little rejection zone you had here. 2165. Put that on your maps, guys, because that's going to happen. It could happen by the end of January. You're at 617 now, ZCSH. It could happen by the end of January. Zcash itself, I could see by the end of January being worth $114 to $143. So, I mean, that growth is 100 to 170%. Maybe it goes all the way up to its 786. There's resistance back there. You got reasons for it. 254. Let's say 170. I mean, if you move up 170 from here by the end of January, that puts you... I mean, dude, I'm going to say it. I think ZCSH is at 2174 by the end of January. I think it is, personally. Unless Zcash underperforms, but I don't think it will. I think it's getting ready to rip, bro. Yeah, looking good. Looking real good. Frisky as hell. As far as all-time highs go, all-time high predictions go, you know, from a high to a low here, you got your 127, 221, 618, $335 to $102. Maybe you could go higher. Maybe you could see deeper extensions. Let's look at Zcash on an all-time kind of basis here, right? I mean, you've been in this consolidation phase for most of your life. You look like you want to recover. I'm going to base it off of this one here. Zcash, maybe it goes up to like 2,600 by the end of the cycle. Maybe. Maybe it only goes to about 1,000 by the end of the cycle. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Maybe it gets a lower high. It's hard to say. I don't think it gets a lower high, though. I do think it sees maybe not new highs relative to like its all-time highs here, but new highs relative to this. I do think it gets there. I like it. I like 2,600. I like it. If not there, way higher. But let's just see. That's like it's like a 47x from here for Zcash. Let's bring it down. Let's be a little conservative. Let's say you do tie up with your all-time highs. Let's say you only see it 16x. Okay, 16x I think is pretty doable. 16x. ZCSH, if you were to 16x, that would take you all the way up. Was it a 16x or 1600? It was about 1600%, so that's fine. Take you right up to this 1272 ZCSH. Yeah. Right there with that 1272 as well. That's kind of cool. That could be, but that's if you track Zcash, right? If you were to track it now, assuming Zcash tops off here, but ZCSH tops off earlier, well then if you were to track it, maybe you're tracking it at 800% or something. I don't know, like where would you be? Maybe it's only here. It's at like 1,000%, so like an 11x. That makes sense. So then maybe ZCSH is double that. It sees a 22x or something. 22x or 27x would be basically right here at 166. I would say base case, like for GXLM, my base case was 1,000, right? At least 1,000, probably 2,000. I would say it's like the same thing here, probably like 166, right? I think these fibs might be more accurate. Who knows for this, but you know, if Zcash itself is worth like, if it's worth 2,600 or more, I mean, there's a real case to be made here, guys, that this thing could do a 100x from here. Like it could, who knows, man. ZCSH could be worth well over 500, 600, maybe even like close to $1,000 by the end of the cycle, if Zcash can break above 2K by the end of the cycle. And we'll know that going forward better, I think, with the predictions or with the outcome of this move, right? Where we are by the end of January, where we are by the end of April, I think that'll really help determine where we're going to be by the end of the cycle. And I know we want that information now, but we just kind of have to roll with the punches. This is the best guess that I have for now, right? So something probably for ZCSH, if I had to guess, at least 166. I feel very safe guessing that. I feel less safe guessing 844. So if we put something right in the middle there, you know, maybe $400, 335, you know, $500, something like that could happen, right? But that would be like the limits of what I could see possible for ZCSH. And when would that happen again? Probably July at the earliest, September, October, November, maybe August, you know, somewhere in that time is what I'm thinking. So that's ZCSH. LTCN now. LTCN. Finding support, higher lows. I didn't even mention that, right? You're finding, look at that. It's just nice higher low, nice succession there. LTCN here. With a drop, right? Hell of a drop this week. You actually found your low today, and then you recovered quite a ways. 6% is what it says, but man, that's only from this, right? You recovered. You're only up 6% from yesterday's close, right? 6.2%. But from your low, you ended up closing this thing at 20% up, right? You had a hell of a move up. Higher low, nonetheless. I wonder how many people were shitting their pants in the very beginning of the day and then deleted all their comments on whatever their local media is. You know, I wonder. What you did was you filled the gap. Gap is filled. Now you're going to move up. That's that essentially, right? Weekly looks great. Weekly RSI looks very great, very poised to go up. You're about to explode. With each one of these lows that comes in, man, it's getting more and more true each time. We're about to rip. I would have thought we were about to rip here. I would have thought here, and I did. I thought every single time, well, fourth time's the charm, man. We're going to get there. It's going to happen soon. The reason why I would have thought here You had a flat top. You broke out. You even got above your 123 moving average, but then you came back down. You got above it again, second attempt. Okay. Definitely not pulling my leg this time. It should go. It pulled our legs again. And then it did it a third time with the most convincing look yet. But still, each time it's pulled our legs, it's regained itself at higher lows. It's sustained itself, forming this very tight uptrend. It's undeniable that the next target would be to the upside, okay, for LTCN. And I think, we'll pull up the underlying asset too. Let me delete this first so it's not there still. Yeah, this thing looks great, man. I mean, yeah, it's dropped off a little bit. You're down 15%, but whatever. The daily RSI too. Look at this, man. How meticulous it is, bouncing off that 40. So bullish, right? You can't even get below the 40. You're getting up toward the overbought zone every time. It's so very bullish, but you're obviously coiled up. You're obviously consolidating. So soon this cage is going to break. You're going to fly whenever it does. From a high to a low, the expectation would be that by the end of this year, by the end of 2024, end of the month of December, I would think that you're probably around 37 to 44 bucks. And then by the end of January, I would think that you're above this high, but below 88 bucks. If not, LTC, let's look at LTC. We'll compare it, but that's kind of my thoughts. Maybe you could go as high as 162 by the end of January, but I'm not expecting that personally. Let's look at LTC, right? From a high to a low on this fib, and just based off of where we are, I would think by the end of January, you're at 102 right now. LTC could be at its 61869 area. It could be at its 786, 886 area. There's reasons for and logic for both of those areas. So let's kind of go with the base range on both of those. 69% to the upside, and then 150%. 69 and 150. So 69 and 150. If this thing moves up 69%, well, that puts it there by the end of January. I don't think so. 150 by the end of January, I don't think so. So then what I would expect then is that this thing doubles probably in price, right? It probably does grow more than LTC does over this coming period here. 152%. If LTC moves up like 150%, then maybe LTCN moves up 300%, right? And 300% would put it basically where I'm kind of thinking it goes. And to me, I just can't see. I could see LTCN going to this price. I could see it going higher, but with this percentage growth, just in that amount of time, I don't know if that's going to happen. I think these targets are more reserved for April, May time, but we'll see. My guess would be for LTCN, it's the same as it's been for the past couple days now, or at least this past week. I don't know, something between 54 and 88. Probably closer to $88. Probably closer to there. You might even be above $80, but not hitting that level. I don't think you'll hit the 1272. I think it'll be one of those rare moments where you don't reach your 1272 because you're breaking out from such a low place in your retracement range. You didn't have any really constructiveness going on at all. Though this is really constructive here, you're just at that point where you break out. I think it's gonna fly, but it won't probably go all the way up to this extended area. So I think it's probably something above 60, something below 90. Best guess there. End of cycle prediction for LTCN. You know, my guess for LTC, somebody said, they're like, you're just guessing. I'm like, yes, welcome to technical analysis. That's what it is. It's literally what technical analysis is, you guys. It's just guessing. High to a low, my guess, based on the TA, right, that we use the TA to form our guesses, would be at least $2,138, potentially as high as $6,300 would be my guess, somewhere in this zone. I don't think LTC goes to 13K. Or higher. I suppose it's possible, but I don't accept it as reality. I accept 2,000 to 6,000, likely 2,000 to 5,000 to be your targets, okay? So if LTC can grow a minimum of a 20x to potentially a maximum of a 60x from here, and again, assuming that LTC tops off after this thing tops off, 20x to 60x, well, a 20x for LTCN would be here at its all-time highs, but that's if LTCN tracks LTC. We're assuming it'll double from there, so instead of a 20x, maybe we get a 40x, and a 40x would be basically here. That would put LTCN at about $661, okay, at a minimum. at like a 20x, right? If we doubled a 20x kind of idea, if we were to double it based off of the higher target, and I'm just doubling, right? These premiums, this is based on the trusts growing at twice the rate from here on out through the end of the cycle. If you go back and you look at any of the bullish phases of any of these Grayscale trusts, a 2x in comparison to the native asset, that's pretty fair, right? Most of the time, if not every time, actually, you've done more than that. So I think I'm being conservative. I'm throwing these 2x's in there to be conservative, to be realistic, and also because we don't know how negatively impactful these PP sales are going to be. And if there are more, and how much more of an impact that'll have. Not really anywhere with the fibs, but that makes sense, right? Sometimes we get that. 58x, maybe it doesn't. Maybe LTC sees a 58x or 60x, but by the time LTCN sees its price growth, by the time it tops off, LTC will be, maybe at like instead of a 50x, maybe it's at like a 30-something x. Maybe it's at a 20-something x, right? And in which case, LTCN, again, a 40x might come online, or if it was a 50x, maybe 100x from here is possible. And at which case, you could see prices, I think, above $1,000. But I don't personally believe, you guys, that LTCN sees prices around here at 2,200, 2,300. I don't think it happens. I'm actually very skeptical to see. I don't even think LTCN breaks above $2,000 this cycle, but I'm very confident, for one, that LTCN will see new all-time highs, and I'm fairly confident, I would say, that it breaks above $1,000 as well by the end of the cycle. It's worth $16 now. Is it 100xable? The answer is yes. It is 100xable. Will it 100x? The answer is I don't know. It's not. It doesn't have the highest premium, so it might not attract the most investors for these private placement sales, but it does have a higher premium than BCHG, and it is one of the leading Grayscale trusts by overall kind of value. So maybe that'll attract attention to it. But hey, ETCG has some of the most value in it too, and it doesn't have as much attention. So that's not always the case. But I would think for LTCN, the base case would be something above $600, probably like close to $700, and then its best case scenario would be around 2K, but probably not quite there at 2K. That's my best guess for LTCN. Okay. And then of course you guys know what the short-term stuff is. New highs relative to this by the end of January. Right. Probably close to $80, but not quite at $80 is what I'm thinking. LTCN. Let's finish this bad boy up with BCHG and be done with it. BCHG here at $6.30. We got a lower low on BCHG, you guys. Holy crap. This, my friends, anybody know what this is called? Right here. Anybody know what that is? Let me draw a line. Hold on. Let me get a straight line on there. Anybody know what that is? That's what they call a fake out. It's a fake out. That's what that is. They happen. They happen sometimes. It's never fun whenever you break these lines, but these diagonal lines, they're just there to mess with you, man. Right? Like look at what happened the last time we broke one. We broke it here and then boom, we went up. Well, we're breaking this one now, and we're probably going to go up rather immediately. That's my assumption. It's weird that you got a lower low. It's definitely weird in the chart structure, but where you found your low, it's right at previous areas of support here, support there, kind of areas of resistance there, but not really. Resistance, support, a lot of support actually. So somewhat significant nonetheless. I think he just slipped. This is a good like shaking out of the weak hands. You can see that this whole move down came in with very like just constant levels of volume, which were all below average. Some of the least amount of volume you've seen in this past like month and a half period. I think it's going to get eaten up. I think next week's going to be phenomenal, man. I really do. I really, really do. I'm not worried about BCHG at all. And even if I'm wrong and BCHG, the ETF gets approved or it gets an ETF filed for it, it's looking promising, and this thing goes down to its NAV price, I'm pretty sure its NAV price, it's probably below $4. It's not that much lower. Maybe it's at like 260. I don't remember. But however low it is, even if it goes there, BCH will grow so much that the price will inevitably pass this high. There's still a solid chance that if BCH goes to where I think it's going to go, that BCHG, even tethered to its NAV price, would return to its all-time highs and supersede its all-time highs. But I think I've said that enough times. by the end of January, I'm expecting BCHG to be around 37.53 personally, if not higher. We look at Coinbase here. I am expecting by the end of January BCH to be at least at 1,300 bucks, if not as high as 1,700 to 1,900 bucks. Right, 1,300 bucks would be about a 180% move. 180% move. If we're assuming that BCHG moves up at twice the rate, that'd be like a 360% move. Well, that would put you right here at about 30 bucks. 30 bucks there. So above this high, but below your 1272, kind of like LTCN, right? And that's if you see 1,300 bucks. If you were to see 1,700 bucks, like I'm holding out for, kind of hoping for, but we don't know. It depends on how fast BCH recovers here, how well it recovers by the end of this year. I think will tell us if we can expect 1,700 or 1,300, right? If we're not above 1,000 by the end of December, 1,700 is definitely off the table. If we're not at new relative highs by the end of December, I'd also be very surprised. But here, going up to potentially 1,700 would put us at a 274% increase. 274 times 2, that's basically a 540% increase, right? That would put BCHG around 40 bucks. So 30 to 40 bucks would be my guess by the end of January. You're at 630 now, right? So prime buying opportunity, definitely. But this is the first time I've considered that by the end of January, you could be less than your 1272 to be completely fair. All right, let's finish this bad boy up and get that all-time high prediction out there. So high to low here. I think BCHG stands more of a chance of seeing its 1.414, right? We'll see. Because if BCH goes to its minimum target of 13K, it's about a 28x, okay? 28x from the current price, 28x. So that would be about here, okay? That'd be about there at 170. We assume that it'll probably double that, but probably before, so maybe a 20x, maybe we do a 40x, maybe. Let's just say a 40x. 40x would actually take you basically right here to 250, okay? And I know, shout out to Marbles on that note. I don't know why your comments are getting deleted or what's happening there, man, but I'm not deleting anybody's comments. I don't care. And I don't know if you missed the memo or if like you just, you watched the videos for a time, but then you didn't for a time. But I have, since the last round of private placement sales, which I don't remember when that was, but that was months ago, I have relinquished the targets that we had for BCHG this whole time, right, which was 527 and higher, for LTCN as well, right? Those got changed because of the private placements, right? And obviously the TA too would suggest that too, right? As time goes on and we're not making any progress, the optimal potential diminishes, right? But beyond that, the private placement sales, I think, definitely diminish your potential. But I think BCHG stands a solid chance from here. If BCH can go to at least 13K, it stands a solid chance of going to 250, right, or more. Definitely new all-time highs. If BCH can go to 23K like I'm expecting it to, that's a 50x. Maybe BCHG doesn't, it's not at its all-time high by the time BCH is, so 50x, maybe instead of a 50x, it's at like a 30x by the time BCHG tops off. And in which case, BCHG, doubling that, a 30x, maybe it's at a 60x, totally speculative here, that's still below your 1414. And I very much would expect more so that BCHG doesn't top off here. It doesn't top off here, but somewhere in between, which doesn't make sense normally. But because of the private placement sales, I think normally you probably would have gone up to your 1414. You would have gone up to 527, but you probably fall just shy of that because of all the selling pressure and all the dilution of the shares. But that's my assumption. None of that has to happen, right? And none of this is a prophecy. It's just a prediction. It's just a series of outcomes using fibs and technical analysis and comparisons to the native assets to draw a hopefully concise conclusion on where the price may or may not be by the end of 2025. But we'll see, guys. We'll see. At any rate, I think all these trusts look bullish, guys. BCHG is the one that had a little curveball there with that lower low, but whatever, man. I'm not worried about it at all. I think it's going to be fine, right? Let's just look real quick here, too. From a high to a low, or a low to a high, actually, right at your golden ratio, kind of having a double bottom. I don't know. Close enough to the 786. You might get some wicked bounce next week. That's kind of what I'm expecting, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, top for now. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want more content like this. Thank you all for being here. Bye-bye.